Utaalamu wa kuotesha uyoga umeshika mwamko mpya humu nchini baada ya watu kutilia maanani lishe bora na manufaa mengi ya zao hili la uyoga, yani mushroom.
My names are Mushura Magego. This is Juja, Kebu County. I do mushroom farming, and is a business that I've done for the last 5 years, and this is my 6th year. Since the year 2013.
Ustawishaji wa uyoga utofautiana katika mahitaji yake kwa sababu kuna aina tofauti za uyoga. Hii ni pamoja na hewa nzuri, malighafi ya kutosha, urahisi wa teknolojia ya kuotesha katika mazingira tofauti hapa nchini na soko lake kwa wananchi vilevile katika mahoteli.
The kind of structure we do here are mud houses. And the reason as to why we do mud houses is that mushrooms house should be well insulated. That means that the internal environment should not be affected by the external environment. So when it gets hot, during the hot season or maybe during the cold season, the internal environment or inside the room, we should always maintain constant parameters, that is our temperatures and also humidity. For the growing rooms, there are 2 processes that goes in. One is the incubation that takes for a duration of 28 days, and thereafter we induce the fruiting season. That is, during incubation we should maintain temperatures of 22 to above 25 degrees Celsius, which are the best recommended for incubation of the mycelium. And that's why the kind of structure you have do dictates the end product. To maintain those temperatures, you need a kind of structure that do not vary. The temperatures do not vary so much during the day and also during the night. Especially here, the environment we are doing this farming, during the days the temperatures are relatively high, and during the night the temperatures also goes too low. But when you're incubating, those temperatures should not vary at all. And that's why we have done the mud houses, so that we can maintain a constant or a cross ledge of those temperatures at room temperature. Some of my houses are made of iron sheets and others are made of makuti. The makuti are more superior than mabati. But the disadvantage is that the makuti are not available in our locality. That's why most of my houses, majority of my houses, have used the iron sheets. But I do compensate by making sure that the ceiling is made of an insulating material, especially the styrofoams, which are good insulators. They do not allow any heat to get in the houses, and I can maintain with ease the temperatures that I need are comfortable. But if the makuti are available in our locality, I would rather use them because they maintain or they keep the room cool, and we cannot have those problems of temperatures rising so high inside our growing houses. We also incorporate the air conditioners as the cyclone, which are fans that are controlled by the wind, and they facilitate to bring temperatures down inside our rooms. If one can construct a standard mushrooms growing house with standard measures, especially like this, So you find that we are having 3 lows. So this one, the far head, we also have another one on the other head, and also the center one, whereby the dimension, so from one shelf to the other, it should be at least 2 foot. It should give you an ample space when you are working inside those looms, when you are tending to your mushrooms, either you're harvesting or maybe you are casing or whichever activity that you're doing. It should give you enough space when you are doing your work here. Then also the width of your shelves should not be more than the far you can stretch your head. So our human head can maybe go up to about 3 foot, a width of about 5, which is the recommended, so that you can work on both ends, so 2.5 and 2.5 on the other side. But the one that are towards your wall, then should have a maximum width of about 2.5 foot. Then also this structure, as you can see, you can have 2 ways. You can have the bagging method and also the tray method. Now this loom is designed for the tray method, so where this now acts as our tray, and we get a polythene sheet and we put it here. We spread it here. We spread our polythene sheet, and it becomes as a basin. Then we bring now our lady compost and we put it inside the tray and we level it. Then we put our spoon and we incubate. But the disadvantage for doing the tray method is that in case of infection, you find that you can have a very big loss. But the bagging method is easier to manage, because in case of infection you can isolate and discard.
Uyoga unaokuzwa hapa nchini kwa wingi ni aina ya vifundo au button na mamama au oyster. Aina hizi mbili zinaweza kutumika moja kwa moja kama chakula au matibabu, ingawa kwa viwango vidogo.
The variety that we do here are the button mushrooms, especially the white. At times we also do portabella mushrooms, which are brown in color, and also sometimes we also do oyster mushrooms. So the 3 varieties are the more common mushrooms variety we have, but the most variety which commands the market is the button mushrooms.
Kilimo Hai leo itaweza kukuangazia zaidi kuhusu ukuzaji wa uyoga wa vifundo au button mushroom.
And that's why we are going to find that we do more on button mushrooms than any other variety here, because the market dictates what a farmer should always take to the market.
Wakati wa kupanda uyoga, hatua kadhaa muhimu huhitajika kufuatwa, ambapo ni uwezo wa malighafi na jinsi ya kutayarisha kwa kuchanganya na aina zingine za mbolea, na kwa muda wa siku ngapi.
For mushrooms to grow, they require a media where they have to grow, and we usually refer it as a substrate, although the common name is the compost. Our main raw material is the wheat straw, although we can also use the sugarcane bagasse or the light straw, but we do prefer to use the wheat straw, because wheat straw has high nitrogen content, and mushrooms being fungi, they do feed more on nitrogen giving material, and straw being one of them, so we do prefer. The other advantage of wheat straw over other raw material is that its structure, it retains its structure even after decomposition. Thus, it can give the mycelium an easy moment when they are spreading. So I would advise any farmer to use the wheat straw because it's easier to do with and also is easier to manage. If you use the sugarcane baggies, due to its spongy in nature, in most cases it will become waterlogged. Although if one is careful when doing it, it will give a better yield than any other material. So the only disadvantage is that due to its spongy nature, then it has a challenge during composting. We usually source the wheat straw from Narok, Nakuru, Mount Narok, Nyahururu, or even at times Meru and Nanyuki. Although it's not a big deal because there are people who do supply us with the wheat straw, and it's advisable if a farmer want to get the wheat straw when it's cheaper, they look the time when the wheat is being harvested, and its cost it's about 130 and 150 during the harvesting of wheat straw season. But when it is off season, it can go up to about 300 or 350 per bale. So it's good if one can have a good storage. It is free from water, then one can store the wheat straw even for many years.
Hadi sasa ni wananchi wachache wanaofanya kilimo cha uyoga kwa sababu manufaa yake hayajahamasishwa ipasavyo. Nia yetu ni kuwapa mwangaza wa jinsi biashara hii inavyoweza kukunufaisha.
This is our composting method. This is the composting process. And in composting, we use the basic raw material here as the wheat straw. The other thing that we add, we call them the supplement. We do add chicken manure, although we can also substitute with horse manure sometimes. There is the urea fertilizer, there is the cotton seed, and especially those supplements. Most of them are very rich in nitrogen content. And this composting is done within a duration of 28 days. I do it within 28 days. And the first process is that I bring the wheat straw here. I spread my polythene sheet, and after that I have to break my bales and water them in layers. I have to water it consecutive for 3 days. After the third day, I have to add a supplement like the chicken manure and also water, because for proper decomposition, water has to facilitate the process. And after another 3 days, we also add other supplement, the cotton seed, the urea, and also the molasses that gives the energy for quicker decomposition. We also use the EM1, that is effective microbes, or BM, which is also biological microbes, to act as a catalyst to quicken up the rate of decomposition. And they also help us to reduce the amount of the bad smell that can originate when the process is decomposing. So it's very essential and also needed. We use the EM1 or the BM when you are decomposing the wheat straw. But the process is long, although we have to turn. After 3 days, we have to turn. We add a supplement, or we turn and we fumigate. The first 2 weeks, so we usually call it the first composting process, and it usually involves the decomposition of the substrate so that the wheat straw will soften, and also watering. The second phase of decomposition we usually call it the conditioning process, whereby we reduce the amount of water. We also reduce by adding agricultural lime to reduce the acidity in the substrate, so that we can bring the pH to about 7.0 to about 7.5 in value. The agricultural lime do facilitate that, and without the agricultural lime, then it's very hard for us to find that our substrate, especially when you use the ammonium sulfate, it's mandatory we use the agricultural lime. Then we also add gypsum as our last supplement that gives the substrate a structure. So when we add the gypsum, you can find that our compost is loosened. At this stage, we are almost to plant our compost. So, and the process is called the spawning. So when you see the spawning, the spawns are the seeds that grows mushrooms. So the process of adding the seed to the prepared substrate is called the spawning. So it has to be done when the substrate is loosened, and also the water capacity is about 60%. The moisture content is about 70%. Then it's ready for us to have it, for us to spawn. And the color of the substrate should be dark brown.